Hello everyone, and another Tinker's Academy video. I'm your host Kay Elmer, and this is a response video from a series of questions asked of me in the Telegram chat group, of which I felt it was a lot easier to just make a quick video to answer the questions as opposed to trying to type it out with my thumbs for the next half an hour. And you know, it's a good question, or it's a good set of questions that I thought everyone would benefit from with a video response, because I do get this question asked every now and then. So here's the first question, and this is from Sky, and asks, can you please elaborate on the difference between these two concepts? What's the difference between storing frequency versus replicating a Leela card? And that answer is it all depends on the density of the material. Okay, and so what I mean by that is that any metal object, right, will hold a frequency, and so will stones and crystals, and then soft materials like clothing and shoes will hold it, but it fades away. For it to stick around, I mean, for the energy and the frequency to stay permanently, then it needs to be a denser material, such as metal. Okay, will hold a frequency. And the idea that you can store a frequency on something as light and flimsy as foil, all the way up to using a Leela card and or capsules, titanium spheres, and so forth. You can put frequencies on any of them. Okay, so having a frequency copied to an object is not an issue at all. It will hold it, and it'll hold it indefinitely. Now, the difference between just putting frequency on a piece of foil or putting it on a card, okay, is the idea of the density of the material. And what I mean by that is quantum energy has this capacity to embed into objects, and the denser the metal, the more energy it can absorb, and then, of course, then broadcast and create a field of quantum energy around it. And so the idea, though, is you want to replicate a Leela card, you need to get something that's got some weight to it, and so that basically is what Leela uses, and is an anodized aluminum card. It's a business card, sized whatever the dimension. I think it's 3.5 inches by 2.5 inches. I think look it up. But the key is the thickness right here, and the thickness on a Leela card is 0.05 inches or 1.27 millimeters, and that's going to give you what the standard is that has been measured, and which produces a 8 centimeter diameter energy field around it. So if you put quantum energy into this weighted item right here, I'll just, the card, the typical Leela card, it's going to produce that 8 centimeter field of energy around it, and that energy is what broadcasts the frequency out. So just having frequency sitting on a piece of foil really doesn't do anything. You need energy to actually then, basically broadcast that energy out into its field, of which when you put it against your body, it's now, part of your biofield, and that's how you, experience the frequency through that energy push, basically radiating into you in a very positive way. Now, the other idea here is that, the more dense you get, and different types of metals, okay? Aluminum is a great storage of quantum energy, steel, copper, brass, any of these metals. But what has been discovered is that titanium seems to, because of its density, if you look on the periodic table, gold as well, the heavier, like tungsten, things like that, it seems to be that the more dense the material is, the metal, the more energy it can hold, and that's just what they've discovered. And so that's why they use titanium spheres, or medical grade titanium spheres, inside the capsule. So this is a lot heavier than a card, and because it's a lot heavier and it's titanium, then the field of a capsule is roughly 6 feet as opposed to 4 inches, right? So something like this, 4 inches, but it works just great. You put it against your body, which is inside your biofield, and you'll get the benefits of that energy and that frequency. Or you can wear a capsule, which is your entire body and anything close to you, actually, because the field will be 6 feet, because it's so much more weight, and it's using titanium. So that's the difference between frequency and energy. And if you wanted to replicate Leela card, you need to use the same size of a Leela card. in terms of density. Now, the second question here is, I assume once a frequency is stored on a foil or a thinner card, it can then be copied to another metal object, same as, and absolutely, that's the whole idea behind, if you watch the super capsule tutorial where I'm using a piece of foil, I put frequency on the foil, put it in the super capsule, and it, then the super capsule then broadcasts that frequency out. So yes, you could absolutely take any Leela card, this is my collection of Leela cards, and you can put that with any other metal object, put it in the quantum block or any other block, and then it'll copy that frequency onto that metal object. But again, you're going to want to have, depending on your use case, if you want to replicate the card, use a 0.05 inch thick card, or if you just want to store the frequencies and create like a frequency collection like I have, then you could use foil if you want. The reason I don't use foil to store my frequencies because it's just too flimsy, and it tears. And it just, it doesn't hold up very well. So what I do for just storing frequencies cheaply is I buy these thinner little aluminum cards, okay? And they don't bend, and they fit into a business card envelope so I can keep it nice and organized. So you could, way lighter, right? But it's just as good for storing the frequency, okay? It doesn't really have much energy. Okay, now the other issue here was, the post goes on to say the thickest card I was able to find on Amazon is 0.4, and I believe you meant 0.04 inches, just shy of the 0.05 recommendation. Does that mean it will not be able to replicate the Leela card? That is correct. If you get anything smaller than that, then it's going to be a smaller field all the way down to no field, okay? So yes, it'll be a smaller field. Unfortunately, Leela hasn't gone through trying to go through the process of analyzing field, size / strength for every possible metal object out there. They just don't have the bandwidth for that, right? So what we do know as a standard is that cards are 8 centimeters or 4 inches, capsules are 6 feet, etc. So I go with what is known. And so, yeah, you would definitely want to have a standard card. If you get a slightly thinner card, it'll be a smaller field, less energy, but no idea as to exact size. So to replicate, you want to stick to the standards there. The next question is meaning, can I make a copy of a Leela Q card onto a thinner card? Yes. And make second gen foil later on this other 0.4 card. Make a second gen. Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, once you copy a frequency onto any metal, that metal then holds that frequency, and it can be used as the source of that frequency. So common practice that I do is when I'm using frequencies in a block, like I'm doing some quantum entanglement, quantum broadcasting, I will just burn the frequency of the card onto a piece of foil. Keep a whole, this is my thing here for my quantum station, and I just keep foil. I just burn a little piece of foil, usually like a 2 or 3 inch square piece of foil. I'll put the frequency on the foil, and then I'll put the foil in with the picture of whatever item I'm sending the frequency to, and then the frequency goes with it, because then this is what's broadcasting this is the quantum field of a block is then what's going to broadcast that energy into the field, or as opposed to titanium spheres. So yes, the second item, the copied to item, becomes a copy that you can then use to send, to use as a frequency source. The next question is it better to copy the Leela Q cards onto a wad of foil versus a thin card? The answer to that is, to me, yes, as for the reason I stated, that these hold up a lot better for storage of frequencies. I use foils, like I said, when I put them in my blocks to send frequencies. And of course, if they sit in a block, especially if I'm using an infinity block or a grand block or a travel block, that little piece of foil is going to get really supercharged. I don't want it to be next to any of my other foils and things like that. So I use foil just as a one-time use when I'm doing quantum entanglement work, and then I just throw the foil away. But for copies of frequencies, I put them onto cards, these little flimsy cards, to store. And of course, the Leela cards themselves as sources of frequencies. Last thing, just as an FYI, I don't actually use the cards as a device. To me, I just use cards are all just to store a frequency. And when I want to use one of these Leela frequencies, I'll put it onto a piece of foil and stick it in a capsule and wear that around for a while. Or I will put it in the block and put my picture in, or whatever animal, dog, plant, name it, and I'll broadcast the frequency that way, or quantum upgrade, right? Now the next thing, the next question was lastly, can you share how you organize and store all these different frequency carrying cards / foils? I guess the other comment was, won't be able to find enough pouches to put each different type of foil in if I store them all in. Okay, so let me just do one question at a time. Can you share? Okay, yes, absolutely. More than happy to. Now, because these are all business cards, right? What I do is I basically will copy frequencies and like right here, I'm always building on to my collection. So of molecular frequencies, about to start doing resonant frequencies and start building up my my existing frequency collection. This is it right here. I keep it alphabetized, and I put all of the cards. Now, the reason this is so helpful, again, it's a card. You can buy these envelopes right here. They come in packs and they're really cheap, and there's a business card envelope. And then I just store them all alphabetically, so you can just, like any one of these guys, you can see, like, here's the A, and here's the allergy booster, and here's the card inside of it, right? And so this is how I store them. I store them in business envelopes, business card envelopes, and I use a label maker just to keep it really organized. And then whenever I need to use it, I just pull it out of the envelope, put it in the Q block with the target object, and then copy it to it, and then put them away. So this is how I store everything as business cards in envelopes. Everything's labeled. So, and I also keep an inventory list in an Excel spreadsheet, so I know exactly what I have. So I don't waste time making redundants, which I always do. And then lastly, if I put them all in one box, will I get frequency soup? Now, that is the most important question you just asked me, and I want to point out something really important for those of you guys who are building up frequency libraries, is that there is a distinct difference between what I just showed you and the Leela cards. Now, you'll notice that I keep my Leela cards in pouches, and there's a reason for that. So this frequency collection is made with the quantum block. You have to be very consistent. You don't want to make your collection with different blocks. And the reason is that you don't want to have that frequency soup. You don't want them to copy over onto each other. So every frequency in this library was made with a quantum block, which means they all have the same level of energy. And when they all have the same level of energy, they're kind of equal to each other, so they don't copy their frequencies onto each other, all right? So you're safe. Each one of these will never copy over onto each other because they're all the same strength. These guys, the Leela quantum cards, are made with an IB4, okay, which is much stronger than a QB. And so because they're stronger, but they're all the same as well, right? So you can store all your Leela cards together, no problemo, but you never want to store your Leela cards with your, what I call my QB cards, because then the Leela frequencies, the cards are stronger, they're also thicker, and they're going to then copy their frequency onto my collection, which I don't want to do. This is my second collection. I had to throw the first one away because I didn't realize that at the time. This was way early, like 3 years ago, when we all started doing this, and we didn't quite know and understand this concept of, the copying over things. So yeah, it's important. Otherwise, if you put like a Leela card in here, right, that frequency of the Leela card will copy to whatever's closest to it, and you're going to get some bleed over, and so you don't want that. You want to keep all your stuff clean, so that like if I'm making a booster and I want to pull this out, like here's my calm for dogs. I made this to calm little skittish dogs, and yeah, I wouldn't want, let's say, like happiness burnt onto this. I just want to, because you want to keep them calm, right? So that's kind of the importance of storing your cards. I do keep these in pouches because they are stronger than these guys, and I don't ever want to make that mistake. And so I store these guys here in my cabinet. It's my quantum cabinet of stuff. And that's how I do it. So you just kind of keep them separate and make sure you don't mix the two. And the pouches, they fit quite a lot of cards before they get full. Then you have to start a second pouch. But that's how you do it. You keep them all together. And again, you can get different cards. I have a section on my blog called Quantum Tinker Supplies or something like that. I'll put the link in the chat. And it's got a list of all the different places that sell cards. So you can find these .05 or 1.27 millimeter Leela size cards. There's a link. There's several links actually of different places that sell these. So if you can't find them on Amazon, other websites do sell them. I just checked. These sell for anywhere from $1.30 to $1.75 each, depending on what site you go on. So you can get the aluminum ones. They come in different colors. This is an aluminum one. Same thing here. It just comes in silver. And then, actually, there's other sites there too. I actually went and got a titanium blank. Haven't quite figured out what I want to do with it, but I just thought it was cool. This titanium business card, the right size and the right thickness. These were $20 each. So, tinkering around with titanium, but I always thought, hey, I can't figure out what I want to do with this yet, but if I do use it, it will definitely become a device like a capsule, because it's got some weight, way heavier than the typical card. You can hear the difference, right? And these little flimsy guys, I get them on Amazon. They're just it's just something better than foil. But that's it. That's what I kind of do. How I store, how I organize everything. I hope that was helpful and answered your question. And have a great day. Aloha.